for Lunch, a weekly show powered by Arcade Studios.
Each week, we'll serve you the top stories we're following in social media, entertainment, celebrity, and tech in 15 minutes or less. You can catch the show live on Instagram Thursdays at about 12 p.m. Mountain Time, or on all podcast providers and YouTube on Fridays. We're your hosts this week,
Morgan.
And Harry.
And this week, if you're on TikTok, this is our first time going live on TikTok. We're testing this out this week to see how it goes, but we're usually over here on Instagram. We'll still be here. We just might be on both, so
yeah,
getting the people what
see
they
what's
want.
Up.
How have you been?
Good, yeah. Excited that spring is kind of around the corner.
It's getting so sunny.
Yeah.
We're a little bit chaotic right now because Harrison and I are usually both behind the phone right now, running production behind the scenes, and we both have jumped in today, so we've got a soundboard right beside us. We've got like multiple computers around
all
us.
The things, got the
There's
safety headphones.
We've got multiple ring lights, so hopefully we look glowing.
Hey, it's the producer special today.
The producer special. We've got some fun stories, so let's just jump right in.
Totally. First up, Spotify has been making some major updates lately to fall more in line with popular apps like TikTok. So Spotify has debuted a TikTok-style music discovery feed that allows you to swipe through different music, podcasts, and audiobooks to see what catches your attention. You can preview up to 5 songs from an album without having to click into the album. And you can also see previews of podcasts in real time, or with real-time transcriptions or video clips when available. You can also listen to from like where you left off instead of starting from the beginning, which is, I think, a pretty solid feature.
I really like that.
You can also choose to scroll through the new feed muted, so without being bombarded by 100 snippets of sounds. The feature is still pretty new and not part of Spotify's key navigation yet. And, there also raises some questions about getting onto the Discovery feed that musicians have kind of expressed concern over. Regarding the current need to surrender additional streaming income to be featured. What do you think about that?
Okay, well, I have mixed opinions since we've chatted about it more. To me, I used to run a music blog, and we would feature a lot of Canadian underground musicians, and I found it was just so hard to get people to listen to something that was a little outside of their comfort zone, or it's a musician that they hadn't heard the name of before. So my initial thought was I'd been waiting for something like this where it was given to you, delivered to you, so that you're not having to go and Google who's who and what sounds like what and do all that. But I don't like hearing that this could come at a pay cut for musicians.
Yeah, no, I think the convenience of using a music streaming service because I don't know, I guess kind of my thought process behind it is we already use TikTok in so many different ways. Sometimes it's to look at memes, other times it's to discover new music, if we're vibing with someone's sound on their video or something. And Spotify pivoting to kind of meet that need and being well, we offer sound, we might as well use this kind of scroll platform. I think it's great. It's the first streaming platform to do it. But I think it does kind of fall short of spectacular when it comes to the fact that Spotify doesn't already pay artists super well, and that an additional pay cut comes at the expense of, the expense of stream income comes with exposure. And I just think that unfortunately the industry operates like that. So kind of in a few different areas, so it's
You're hinting around sort of the pay cut. Do you have actual information on that?
Well, yeah, so I was reading a blog post of someone who works quite closely with a few record labels, and they were talking about how it's an extra 40 cents off of what you're already getting paid.
Per download?
Per listen.
Stream,
yeah. So, but again, a lot of it is speculation because Spotify hasn't rolled out a lot of the specific details.
True.
But I think it's just
but it could set a weird precedent.
Totally.
I think is kind of the concern.
Totally.
And it was nice to see, I think, YouTube Shorts giving they were pulling music directly from artists who've uploaded it on there. So when you're on YouTube Shorts, if you click onto the song, it doesn't take you to who originally uploaded it on TikTok, where it could be kind of anyone. It takes you to that musician's page and plays from their YouTube account so that they can get that AdSense money. And I kind of feel we were kind of taking a step in the right direction. and this feels like we're now kind of in an in-between. So hopefully this is a natural move to pay more and like maybe more people will use it.
Totally.
But I can see the concern for sure.
And I think there are like possible benefits to, you know, that platform as well. Like, what if it does the same thing that TikTok does, and like, you know, someone's algorithm is just like really in tune, and they just get a bunch of new listeners and they get a bunch of opportunities from it. Like, that's probably Spotify's intention. Like, I don't think it's ill-intended, but it unfortunately has to kind of come at a cost. So
yeah, and it shouldn't. It should just be, if you're doing a discovery feature and it's going to be based off people's listening preferences and algorithm, like, I don't want to feel like me using that feature is going to cost an artist. Especially for me to discover like smaller names and people who are new. Like, that's what I want to hear, and that's what I would want this feature for. So Spotify, let's get that together. Let's keep being ethical.
Sort it out.
But I do like the feature. I think it's interesting. Interesting for podcasts as well, because I think that's another one where it's like an effort to listen to something new. So I like getting a little clip and then being able to jump into the show from what made you interested. So
totally
into it. Okay. Next story, this is where we're going to put our news hats on. Maybe we can get that in the edit. Things are escalating in the U.S.'s threat to ban TikTok. So this is developing news right now. I'm going to let you know what we know and where we're at so far and a little bit of background, and then we'll kind of chat through, but this is going to develop throughout today. So the most recent update is that the U.S. has been threatening to ban the app if TikTok's Chinese owners don't sell their stakes. Amid concerns around data privacy, ByteDance continues to reject spy allegations. They've been continuing to say that they're investing a ton of money. I think they invested $1.5 billion on rigorous data security efforts, but that's not enough for the States. They're really wanting it to be a US-owned company. There was a valuation for the company at something like $50 billion. That's an estimate for what it would be valued, and there's really only 3 US companies that could afford it, which are Meta, Google, or Microsoft. So right now, TikTok's CEO is testifying before the House Energy and Commerce Committee, I totally know what all those things are, to answer questions from U.S. lawmakers. And there's updates happening all throughout today, but there's been some interesting quotes so far. I think we were both kind of interested in these. So
they're quite poetic.
They are quite poetic. So the first one is by Antony Blinken. He's the Secretary of State, and he said, TikTok should be ended one way or another, and there are different ways of doing that.
It's like throwback to Google talking about their layoffs and being like there are going to be blood on the streets. It's like the language that you use, especially in like a hearing like this, it's like, don't sound threatening, because like people take that very different ways. Like, that's just like, what do you mean different ways of ending TikTok? Like, be clear. That's so scary.
It sounds like there's obvious platforms, and it's so customized to you that if you were to get ads, they would obviously be completely algorithm fed and not at all like done in a democratic and kind of fair way. So any thoughts overall on a ban? And
I think it's like, I don't know, the way I see it is just like, it's not that serious. Like, it's a fun app. Like, people like it. It's giving a lot of people a platform to, you know, turn being a creator into a job. Like, you know, it's got a really solid community. I think the US is threatened by it for the wrong reasons, and in my opinion, I don't really know if they're like being super upfront with what those reasons are, but I can kind of read between the lines a little bit, and it just I don't think banning a social media app is like, I don't know.
It's not the way.
No,
and especially,
I don't think so.
I was seeing some articles talking too about how this would just further draw a line between like young people in the States and like politicians, because obviously this is an app that people really love to use, and if it's getting banned and they kind of had no say in it, then that sucks, and it's going to take away a lot of people's livelihood. So
totally, my
hope is that it doesn't happen. If they do end up having to come to some sort of like deal to buy it in the States, I just hope that doesn't change the way the app is too much, because I think we all really like the app. And
to talk about the major impact of the Corteiz Nike release that happened.
This was wild.
So Corteiz, a streetwear brand from London, teamed up with Nike to release a pair of collaborated Air Max 95s. Clearly, the city was mistaken into thinking that Corteiz wouldn't impact the New York streetwear community in the same way it does in London, because the shoe was dropped essentially via coordinates posted by Corteiz, directing thousands of New Yorkers to a local bodega, and inside is where you could buy the shoe. After that, the hysteria kind of erupted with people running around and blocking traffic while seeking the next drop location. And I think what made this drop so special was like the IRL element of it, you know, like it kind of turned into like this like geomapping scavenger hunt kind of thing. And like, I think, I don't know, it really highlighted like a cool use of using social media to make, I don't know, buying sneakers fun again. I feel like we kind of like lost that with the StockX and the Grail drops where everything's just on your phone. Like it brought it back to real life.
So true.
You know?
I didn't even think about it that way. I was just thinking this would really bring my orienteering skills from elementary school into into the world.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, there was also like a whole video posted. They did a drop in London before the New York drop as well, and we just thought the video was done so well. It perfectly speaks to the target market here, and something we were really liking that London does is have these like niche people in the videos. That's kind of like an if you know you know moment. So I totally recommend going and watching that. I think from a marketing standpoint it's really interesting, but just from like an exciting standpoint for something from a brand, it's nice.
And it's so fast paced, right? Like one thing that I do love about sneaker culture, I think, is it still has this really fun and vibrant and like youthful feeling to the marketing surrounding the shoe itself. And you know, like when you watch this ad, you'll see what I mean. It's just like, it's so fast paced, it's so fun, there's so much like tongue-in-cheek humor, and it's really well done. And I think that like makes not only the shoe itself more desirable, but just to like see a brand like Nike having fun with like these streetwear brands and like just kind of, you know, I love when a company takes itself less seriously, is essentially what I'm saying.
And there's like the shoes cool too, so like they did it all right. The marketing was great, the advertising was great. It kind of gives me like Pokemon Go vibes. Like everyone was out doing this like collective mission together.
We need that back.
And I think that that's something that like younger generations are going to want, growing up on social media and with like screens in your face everywhere. For people who are a little bit older, it's still kind of novel, or it's like something that we didn't have our whole life. But if every kind of shoe drop you've ever had is just like on your phone, or you're just like getting tickets on your phone, and you're never doing that experience of like having to go in the real world to like hunt it down, I think that's so fun to bring that back.
Yeah, it's like online shopping is convenient, but it's kind of devoid of any like experience. Yeah,
it's really just like, take my money, okay, I'm good, but I would much rather go do something like this.
I would love to run around the streets of New York for a pair of sneakers. That's like my perfect idea of fun.
1,000 of my friends going to the bodega.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm into it. Okay, well, I'd love to hear what everyone thinks. If you have thoughts on any of these stories, let us know. YouTube's probably the best place to drop some comments. And otherwise, we'll be back again next week. So now that we've whet your palate, go eat something more substantial.
Cheers.
Cheers, Harrison.
Thanks for joining us.